Hey everybody, it's Andrea Merida back with some more thoughts about this campaign season. And in the last few weeks, there's been a lot of social media activity around this question of former Governor Jesse Ventura and whether he should be granted the Green Party nomination for president. Now, while Mr. Ventura has been hinting at this possibility for at least the last couple of years, what he's since said is that he's not actively running because then he would lose his health insurance. And he's right. The FCC has an equal opportunities rule that says how broadcast stations are supposed to equalize the use of programming time between candidates. And so on air personalities in particular are covered in this FCC rule because every time their show is broadcast, that opens up the avenue for an opposing candidate to request an equal amount of airtime. And so, as you can probably see, it would kind of create some havoc in a station's programming schedule. So it's pretty likely that RT America told Mr. Ventura that he'd have to resign as an on-air personality. Otherwise, he'd lose his health insurance because he wouldn't be an employee anymore. And, as our campaign has said, no one should have to choose between running for office and healthcare coverage. This is why one of the signature policy proposals from the Hawkins-Walker campaign is a nationalized Medicare for all system, because running for office should not be the domain of the independently wealthy. Now, I understand that there's many people out there who would really like to see a Ventura campaign hit the ground. And I understand the rationale. And many of his supporters talk about reaching 5% of the vote, which no Green has been able to achieve before. But they've cajoled and threatened and pressured our campaign to have Howie Hawkins give the nomination to Ventura without taking into consideration that the nomination is not Howie's to give. That decision belongs to the delegates of the state parties and national caucuses who've democratically elected their delegation to cast a vote. And in most cases, those delegates are bound by state rules on how they're supposed to vote. Grassroots democracy is a fundamental principle of the Green Party, and this is why we fight for electoral reform. We fight for ranked choice voting, publicly funded electoral campaigns, the abolishment of the Electoral College, all because we believe that every person's vote is sacrosanct, period. So to petulantly come at us and demand that we should vacate our most fundamental principle is, I'll be honest, it's an insult. In some state Green parties, Mr. Ventura has appeared on the ballot that's being distributed to members. In other cases, there's been a write-in option, which some people have actually exercised. But there hasn't been much of that. Some of these internet trolls are, as a result, complaining that we're a closed group, that we don't let everyone participate. But as a recognized party, both in many states and also federally, we have the right to restrict who can vote in our primaries. It's up to campaigns to mobilize their voters. We all understand that. In some state Green parties, becoming a member and therefore becoming eligible to vote is as easy as filling out a free online form. So why don't the internet trolls do that? Sure, some have. But why haven't they organized an actual grassroots campaign to get the job done? I think that it has something to do with the way that they might believe that they fit into the political process. These are people who fundamentally accept the authoritarian status quo of this country. They say they're challenging the system, but if you look more deeply at what they say, they're really only challenging who's in power without challenging the system of power in the first place. They really just want a piece of the action without giving thought to what that means to everyone else. And they're looking for a superhero to win and therefore spring them into prominence without ever having to lift a finger or collect a ballot petition signature or even in most cases make a donation. But Greens, you know that this isn't the way that it works. If you did, you wouldn't be Greens. You know that we can't cede our voice to celebrities. You know that every accomplishment we make, every inch of growth, has to be done with our own hands. We are the superheroes we've been looking for. We're willing to do everything within our capacity to change this power imbalance ourselves. And in fact, our ninth key value is personal and global responsibility, which calls each of us to assume agency for our own lives, for the well-being of society and of the planet. This situation reminds me of 2012, when we had another David versus Goliath situation, when a celebrity stepped forward to grab the Green Party nomination for president, but was overcome by a candidate that was little known to the general public at that time, and her name is Jill Stein. Since that time, Jill has gone on to influence the public debate and call us all to be mindful of the ways democracy is being manipulated by the powerful, and to urge us to all stand in opposition to those actions. To those of you who are green and who support Mr. Ventura, I want to tell you that I understand. Some of you have been Greens for many, many years, and you're the ones who year after year stand out in all sorts of weather to collect ballot signatures for candidates up and down the ballot. You're the ones who've been faithfully sharing your time, talent, and treasure for years, often being one of the few that will. You've taken on responsibilities and tasks that sometimes aren't even part of your natural skill set. Many of you learn accounting or web design or other skills on your free time as a volunteer without any compensation or even much thanks. I see you. I know you're tired. I know the toil now has you asking if there's a shortcut. But the Hawkins Walker campaign understands and is committed to helping you build. The whole campaign team is experienced organizers who have learned how to build relationships in our own communities, and we're already focusing that strength toward your state parties. Even now, we've helped recruit new membership. We've provided material support for your ballot access campaigns for Greens all up and down the ballot, and we've even provided technical support in some cases. When we started this campaign more than a year ago, we came to this with a full understanding of the challenges you face in your state and local parties right now, because we've been there too. What's even more disappointing is how some Green candidates are sniping at you from the sides. They accuse you of corruption and of stacking the deck. They collude with YouTube personalities who have no respect for our party to attack you. They blame their own failures to win votes on you. In most cases, these are people who've not even put in the time to trying to keep the lights on like you have. They sit back and they expect you to cater to them when it's the responsibilities of campaigns to do their own legwork. We've had to chase some of you down for information too, but we understand, we get it, because often you're trying to put food on the table and care for your own families. One of the key things that non-Green Ventura supporters don't understand is ballot access. A Green nominee has to simultaneously run not just an electoral campaign, but also a ballot access campaign in many states. If these people are truly concerned about the Green Party making an impact, then they ought to focus their efforts and their wallets toward working on and funding our ballot access campaigns that are underway right now, even with the threat of the pandemic, and even when state governments are not offering relief. You know, as Howie has said, we should be electing thousands of Greens across the country. And with ballot access, we can more easily run Greens for Congress and Senate everywhere. Imagine what we could do with just a few Greens in Washington. Even just our electoral campaigns improve elections by putting onto the debate the things that people really want and need. And we force other candidates to move toward a leftward policy agenda. Howie Hawkins has proven this in his campaigns for governor of New York, where he's achieved ballot status time and again. Now, right now, the Green Party of Minnesota, as one example, needs 125,000 signatures to become a ballot-qualified state party. But with Mr. Ventura's celebrity, because he lives in Minnesota, he could launch a national fundraising drive to raise the resources to do exactly that. That would mean that people who are showing real leadership in the Minnesota uprising, for example, would have a clear pathway to run for office and to make sure that the police reforms that are being put into place now are held fast for years to come. And this would be ballot access for the state party, not for any candidate in particular. And here's another example. Oklahoma charges a bounty of $35,000 for a state party to get ballot access. Imagine having a progressive, organized group who would challenge the domination of the corrupt Diebold voting machines and who will put candidates on the ballot to wage the fight that the Oklahoma Democrats will not do. Personally, I believe that Mr. Ventura, with his celebrity, could raise that money probably close to overnight so that another state party could be launched. So instead of dangling a run for 2 years, instead of declaring that he's going to write himself in for president, I encourage him to leverage his celebrity to ensure that we have a pathway for progressive candidates who are not spoiled by corporate donors or who are muzzled by neoliberals who just want things to stay the way they are. As I record this video, Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker are just 4 delegates away from clinching the Green Party nomination for president and vice president. This coming weekend, we expect that they'll become the presumptive nominees. So we invite you to join with us to fight for all the policies that Democrats will never give us, and to ensure that we're building this Green Party into an organized, progressive machine that'll fight until every fracking well is shut down, until every homeless person has keys to the front door, until every war is ended, until reparations are a reality, and until we stop the advance of climate change forever. We can do this. We're all we need. We're the superheroes we've been waiting for. So let's get to work.